Thinking about selling your startup? Before you pitch, demo, or even share your deck, there's one document that could cost you everything if you're not careful. That's the NDA. Today we're breaking down how NDA language can tilt the M&A playing field, common traps in acquirer-led NDAs, and red lines that can protect your IP and leverage. So let's dive in. I'm Corey, a startup lawyer helping entrepreneurs decode law, technology, and innovation. In this video, we're talking about non-disclosure agreements, specifically in the merger and acquisition context, and how small clauses can have massive consequences for your company's future. Here's what we'll cover: how acquirers draft NDAs to tilt the playing field, what language to redline and why, a startup-safe NDA playbook that protects your IP, and we'll end out with some pro tips before you send that pitch deck or any kind of confidential information. Okay, so you have a Trojan horse NDA. In one deal we reviewed, an acquirer's NDA looked mutual on the surface, but inside there were legal traps everywhere. First, let's look at excluded information. This clause was overly broad and removed protection for even verbal disclosures. Think about it practically. If you're on a Zoom call or a phone call and you're talking about things your business is doing or plans on your roadmap, this was excluded from what's considered confidential. Why does this matter? If you casually explain your monetization strategy on a call and it's not in writing, the acquirer could claim, well, that's not protected. Next, the independent development loophole. This acquirer's NDA said that they could still build similar features as long as it was independent. But there was no burden of proof, no documentation requirement, just trust. That's a loophole that's big enough to drive a patent through it. It's actually very common in the Silicon Valley context, where oftentimes you'll have corporates that will be doing market intelligence under the guise of potential interest in an acquisition. That's something that startup founders need to be very much aware of, because these companies may have big names and may have no intention of doing a deal, but they may have every intention of being able to hoover up your IP or using the deal process as a market intelligence strategy. Now, what are startup-friendly ways to navigate this? NDAs should be revised to clearly define what counts as confidential. For example, source code, business plans, user interface designs. There needs to be required written follow-up to protect verbal disclosures. You need to raise the bar on independent development. There needs to be some sort of a proof, not just a promise. Otherwise, it's basically a waste of words on a page. A bonus, you could restrict access to deep text such as source code until a term sheet is actually signed. Okay, so let's recap. Acquirers often will use NDAs to gain early leverage or for competitive intelligence. You want to be on the lookout for loopholes around verbal disclosures and independent development that are really guises to take or steal your intellectual property. And finally, the right language can protect your ideas before you start talking numbers. Join me on the path to decoding law, technology, and innovation to grow your business. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Until next time.